Okay, we'll go now. Good evening and welcome to the Shaftsbury School District Board meeting at 6:30 p.m. And we will begin with citizens' comments. Are there any citizens' comments? Seeing none, okay. There's no presentation. We will move right to the action items, and I'm going to change this around after the action items. I want to put the superintendent on because he has to get to North Bennington, so we'll get him in and out. So, action items, you got the treasurer's report. Is there anything on the treasurer's report? Any questions? Seeing none, I need a motion and a second.
So moved.
Okay.
Second.
All right, very good. All in favor of the motion? Aye. Okay. All right. Consent agenda. You got the minutes, and we have a resignation. Anything in the minutes?
So I think we got the wrong copy of the minutes.
Which one did you get?
August 13th?
No, there were three versions that went around.
Right, so this one, I'm not sure which version it is, which of the
Yeah,
three.
this should not have Holly Bahan, it should have Joyce Scarrett as president.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
Right.
yes, and it does, and it doesn't. It has Holly.
Right, and there
Yep.
was a revision sent
There
around
was a
that.
revision.
Okay.
So there was a revision that we all saw
Yeah,
and had a
right.
chance to look at, but we
Endlessly.
don't have it here tonight. And
So
with us,
we
I don't know
will-
if that matters.
Yeah, never
Probably
mind the
not.
minutes. So we have, the only thing we have is the resignation
Warrants?
and warrants, but do the resignation.
Want to deal with that separately, Frank?
Yeah, we can. So you want to do the warrants now instead? Okay. We have warrant number 5 in the amount of $1,704.74. Number 1004 in the amount of $33,161.22. 1005 and $78,377.31. 2002, $39,088. Number 2003, $386,426.14. And I have some questions on the 2003. On page 19, are the assessments. I know that there's some are special ed and administration, but I think what Larry asked last time, and correct me if I'm wrong, you wanted to see what they were for beside those
Right.
things. Okay.
Last month, we had quite a list
Right.
of the SVSU assessments. And this month, we have an equally long list. And all I'm looking for, I think the board might be interested in knowing as well, is what those individual assessments are. Just so it's not that we don't agree with them, it's just
Right.
what are we spending the money on?
Right.
What
I know-
what the dollar amount is, or what the categories are?
What category?
Category,
I don't think we would know.
I mean, there are the numbers there, but most people aren't gonna know what those are.
I can give you a general answer, and I'll get back to you with,
Yeah.
but the categories are administrative services, audit, tech administration, finance services, sped administration, early childhood program, and I might not have them all. And I know that the billing for it is July 1, September, January 1st, April 1st. So there's one upfront payment and then 3 equal payments for the balance.
Okay.
So you'll see those, that's the cycle that you should see those assessments in.
If you could give us a drop a key that would,
Could you give me the page again, Larry?
it was
Page 19
Okay.
on 2003 warrant.
Yeah,
So that's the September.
I got asked this similar question. I am not as familiar with the account codes of what they are by codes and not by category. So if I'm understanding your question correctly, Larry, you would like, and if you permit me to get back to you on that for
Yeah,
another
oh,
meeting.
sure.
What on these account codes, which of those categories I just listed goes to which account code?
right.
Yep.
All right.
Yep.
Thank you.
And if you could, Jim, last month it was on the voucher number 2001, and it was also on page 11. There was also an extensive list of those same types of assessments. So I think it would serve us well throughout the year just to have a standing key that we could, when we see a certain number, rather than have to.
So what's the code for the
We know what the
key or
code
the
is,
answer
you can
key for
answer.
those, yeah?
Okay, anybody else on the warrants? Okay, need a motion to
Oh,
accept?
wait,
Go ahead.
is the question open for
Yes,
further
still is.
questions on
Yeah.
warrants? On voucher 2003, on page 4, there's a sizable amount, 7,700 to do for, and it's called contracted bus transportation. Is that part of our, is that a, part of our regular?
I don't think so. That's our regular is usually
Okay.
10 or 12 grand.
I guess I just, at some point would like to know what that,
It could be special ed or something.
I will get back to you on that
Yeah,
one. So,
okay.
and, Jim, a question you might be able to ask Rick is, what does the transportation picture look like this year? Are we looking at a reduction? The state reimburses us a substantial amount of our transportation costs, and I'm curious which way that's headed. I know they've decided to trim a variety of things out of the education budget, and I'm wondering if that's one that we can anticipate is going to decrease further. Page 8, Otter Creek. That's just the final. There were two checks at $12.50 each. That's just the final. That's the total final.
For the plan that you
Okay.
Yep.
Page 20, Supreme Tree Service. What did you harvest out here?
We took the big tree on the very corner of
Yeah.
the playground, the little playground, and we did some trimming along the whole fence line.
Did we make any money? Did we sell the wood or anything?
So I don't think so. I am aware of.
And on page 21, there's a bill for the Vermont School Board Association. The only comment I would have there is I'm not particularly happy, and it may be just me, but I don't know that those folks are doing a lot for us. We've had the District 1 question come up, and they have an attorney present. They didn't give us a whole lot of assistance in working with that question, and I really have come away feeling that they're really in support of consolidation. And my feeling is that that's not the way to go, but as an association, I think they're obligated to support us as a small school a little differently than they've done. So I know North Bennington, for example, has dropped out of that association. All I'm asking is, are we getting any kind of value for the amount of money that we're spending with those folks?
Anything else? You're all set.
do you want me to
Dave?
answer that, or is that a rhetorical question, or just taking
Kind of
a
rhetorical
stand?
question.
Yeah.
Kind of throw it out there. Which?
Well, I've heard the same thing from, North Bennington. Only this panel really can judge. Do you think you're getting what you pay in dues out of that? What your own experience is with that organization. Is anyone from this board attending Monday's regional board?
Yes. Yep.
That might be a forum to ask that same question.
We haven't been able to use their services as offered. Franny's testified before that some of the programs and presentations that they've done haven't changed in 10 years. And they're pretty stale, and they don't really offer a clear picture of a lot of things that are going on. I just don't know that they're relevant to schools our size, and I'm not sure they intend to be.
You're right.
I'll just say, my sense, or my experience, I guess, has been positive with the organization.
Has been, Dave?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yep, and as a new board member, I thought the event that is being held on Monday, that is held every year, was valuable to me to get a pretty broad perspective on what school boards were all about. And then I've gone to the annual conference at SIU, yeah, all right, and I thought that was terrific opportunity, so. Now we pay for that.
Yeah, we pay
We
outside of that.
Yeah.
Okay, anybody else? Okay, so we'll take a motion on the warrants.
And the minutes?
No, we're not gonna do the minutes, those, because you need a different version.
We'll just amend.
Oh, we can do, oh,
Yeah.
okay, good.
Yeah.
So we'll do the minutes with the amendment. So yeah, the minutes and the warrants then.
You want a motion on that?
Yes,
So moved.
yeah. Dave?
Second.
Okay, all in favor of that motion? Aye?
Yep.
Okay, all right, now we'll do the resignation. I need a motion on it.
I make a motion that we accept Barb's resignation as presented. We do it with great reluctance and appreciation for the years that she's given Shaftsbury.
Okay. And second?
Second.
Okay. All in favor of the motion?
Aye.
Aye? Okay, good. Okay. Jim, you're up.
Thank you. Well, Jim is only going to speak briefly tonight because my presentation is on AYP, and I'm actually going to be introducing some other people to do that. First, I'd like to introduce to the board the newest employee of the Southwest Vermont Supervisory Union, the new Director of Curriculum, Instruction, and Assessment would be Laura Boudreau. So I'd like you to welcome her, and I think you might know her. One of our driving points this year as the supervisory union is to focus on the positive, to move forward with improvements to the entire school district. And so in the matter of AYP, we're obligated to give a report on how our schools did, and you're going to hear that in a minute. But one thing, there was an interesting study released earlier this week on the effectiveness of school superintendents. And this particular study found that the impact that a school superintendent has on school performance is minimal. And there are probably plenty of superintendents on test scores, particularly on test scores. What does have an impact on school test scores are principals and teachers, and what they do as the educational leaders in their facility. And the role and function of a superintendent is to make sure the resources are in place that they need to do their job and to support them as best that a superintendent can. So that is one of my goals for this year, is to, particularly in our elementary schools, to support the principals as we move forward with initiatives to improve our schools. And Shaftsbury, I think you have a lot to be proud of in your school and as your test results have gone. But as we all know, if you stand still, somebody will pass you. So we always need to move forward. And so that is just my little introduction to what you're going to hear now from Laura and Jeff. And I wanted to be present for that as a very symbolic gesture of my support of their efforts as they bring forth the initiatives to bring the next change. So with that, I don't know, go ahead.
Can you guys
Need to read. So while Laura's passing these out, just to give you a little background. Laura and I have been working on this project for a couple weeks now. I'm getting this kind of called a report card, an AYP, to the board and to the community of how Shaftsbury stands at this point. So really what we want to do is see where we are now and where we're going. And I'm going to let Laura start off. She has first couple slides she wants to talk about.
So I had the pleasure on Friday to meet Rebecca Holcomb, the Secretary of Education, and I was so impressed by her, just very moved by what she had to say, and I feel like the room was filled with educators and we were just in awe of the presentation she gave. That was 35 minutes. She's taken a stand on the role that assessment plays and has made some statements that I want to share with you from 2 documents which you also get copies of. This particular quote comes from her letter to Vermont parents and caregivers, and it says, under the No Child Left Behind Act, as of 2014, if only one child in your school does not score as proficient on state tests, then your school must be identified as low performing under federal law. This year, every school whose students took the NECAP test last year is now considered low performing by the U.S., as determined by the U.S. Department of Education. Okay. So she went on to say, this particular quote comes from the Vermont State Board of Education resolution that was adopted August 19th, 2014, and this really, I think, speaks to our profession and the work that Shaftsbury Elementary School is doing. Educators need to make use of diverse indicators of student learning and strengths in order to comprehensively assess student progress and adjust their practice to continuously improve learning. They also need to document the opportunities schools provide to further the goals of equity and growth, which speaks volumes when, and Jeff will make some connections to this in a minute. Okay, and the next slide we're going to show you, what Rebecca Holcomb did is she brought together some pieces of data about Vermont and how we're doing right now. Very current data. Trends in International Mathematics and Science study from 2013 had ranked Vermont 7th in the world in 8th grade mathematics and 4th in science. On the National Assessment of Educational Progress, or the NAEP, Vermont consistently ranks at the highest levels. We have the best graduation rate in the nation, and we are ranked 2nd in child well-being. The Wallet Hub, a social media company, analyzed 12 different quality metrics and ranked Vermont school systems 3rd in the nation in terms of school performance outcomes. So these are things that Vermont should be really proud of and what we're doing for our kids. So now I'll show you how you're doing.
So if you've been on the state website for education, you might recognize this graph. This is our NECAP scores for the last 5 years in reading. And what you see is the blue are the students that scored above proficient. Green are the students that scored proficient. Orange are slightly below proficient, and then the red are significantly below proficient. And to do the math, roughly we are averaging over 70% in reading every year for kids that are proficient or above in reading. So we're pretty proud of that fact. It's been fairly consistent throughout the last 5 years. And to give you an indication of how we're doing compared to the state, the blue is us, our reading scores for the last 3 years. The red is the state of Vermont. So as you can see, we were 76% in 2011, where the state of Vermont was roughly around 73%. And then we were pretty equal the following year at around 73%. And then last year, we were well above well, considering how you look at it. We were 74, and the state was around 70% for reading. So we've done very well in reading traditionally. Something that we hope to continue. Obviously, we have a very strong reading program here, and the teachers really concentrate high on the K-2s, because if we get them in that younger age group, it just benefits 3, 4, 5, and 6 as they move up. These are our math scores for the last 5 years for NECAP. And again, if you remember, NECAP is done now. We'll be taking the SBAC in the fall, so these won't be, or spring, I'm sorry. We won't be comparing these scores next year because it'll be apples to oranges. What we can think about is comparing ourselves to the state again, state average, when we take the SBAC. what you see here is the colors are the same. Blue is highly proficient, green is proficient, orange is slightly below proficient, and red is significantly below proficient. Roughly around 60-some% we average throughout the last 5 years. And again, when we look at it for the state, Vermont is red, we are blue, and you see we're slightly below or significantly below in some areas, in some years for math. Thus the reason we created the school improvement plan we did last year to address those concerns, which is what some of the next slides are going to talk to. Any questions on the slides before I move on?
Jeff, can I just ask a question?
Yep.
What year was the strike? The teacher strike?
9, wasn't it?
No, wasn't that
And it-
one? The reason I'm asking is because whatever year it was,
Yeah.
there were a
missed
portion
tests.
of tests that didn't get finished.
It was 2011.
11. Wasn't it?
11?
Wasn't it just writing though?
A lot of our kids didn't finish the math portion.
Yeah, there was. I remember there was that year. Any other questions on the slides? So this is what we've been working on the last 12 months since I took the position. We were identified in mathematics, and the state required us to create a Mountain Star plan around how we're going to improve math. And this is kind of a summary of what we've been working on last year. What we really for our purpose is we want to create a teaching and learning environment that ensures all students have the opportunity to reach their fullest potential. This includes an infrastructure that fosters professional collaboration among staff to assess, analyze, identify, intervene, and monitor student progress. We basically want to use the expertise and knowledge we have in this building in the most efficient way possible. And that's really what we feel our purpose is at this point. This is a math goal that we created last fall. We looked at our math data, tried to identify some areas of challenge for us, which we came up with numbers and operations. So 63% of our students scored average or above in numbers and operations as measured by the MAP test. By June 2015 of the school year, we hope to get that up to 70% with some of the interventions we're doing, the new math program that we have, the new MTSS system we have in place, all these action steps that we have in hopes to increase that. We used MAP data simply because we knew NECAP was on its way out, and MAP is something that's we're going to keep, and we're going to continue to take 3 times a year, and something we can progress monitor throughout the school year.
Jeff?
Yep.
So 63% scored average or above.
Yep.
That's the state average or what?
No, this is what Shaftsbury students on the MAP score. There's no state average for MAP.
So,
MAP is
so what's an average score for, how do you determine the average?
It depends on the grade and the student.
So that's a number that's applied to us.
Through the MAP company that I take the test with, yeah.
So if we're doing, I mean, it's 70% would be nice, 63% is pretty good. Because 51% being above average would make us better than whatever universe you're measuring.
Yep,
So,
yep. These are some of the action steps that we've put into place, including the creating the school leadership team, which works diligently all year long, meeting many early mornings. Sarah and Sarah are both on the team. You see them in the audience tonight. We created the infrastructure to allow teachers to collaborate and work with each other, look at the data, look at students specifically, identify areas that students need help, get interventions, and to look at the data and really analyze it so they know what they're looking at and give them the time to do that. We identified some assessments that we want to use, for example, the MAP test, the Ames Web, and the SBAC that's coming in the spring. We researched and identified, we spent a lot of time this summer finding resources both within the school and resources outside of school, like the websites for student interventions. And to remind, interventions are basically when a student gets that first good instruction in the classroom, and then maybe some simple assessments given, and we see this child still not quite getting that. So we get a second hit or another intervention in that area of mathematics. So we give them another instruction in that area, just so that it helps them get over that little hump if they're not getting it the first time around.
Jeff?
Yes.
At that point, it's becoming more personalized. You're looking at each student as an individual
Yes.
need.
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah.
so we get away from the classroom gives him a broad stroke.
Yep.
And then when we identify
children need.
deficiency after that, then it starts to get
Yep.
more personal
Yep,
and more,
And
okay.
what we tried to do with the interventions is have a wide range. Computer interventions, workbook interventions, the Go Math has some interventions in place that you can use. There's a number of different things that teachers can use because it's not gonna, you identified 2 different students, the
Right.
same intervention may not work for both of you.
Right.
You want to say that, Frank?
Jeff, do our teachers have all the tools they need?
We're gonna get to that.
Oh, okay.
Good question, Fran. We're gonna get to
I
that.
just want, if there's something else we're supposed to
Yep.
be doing,
Yep.
so they
But
can
if I
succeed.
understand you right, Jeff, you're bringing in more and more staff to address that personal missing piece, okay? Do I hear that right?
What do you mean bringing in more staff?
Well, you're bringing in more resources from other staff members that may be able to affect the outcome.
That's potentially, potentially that's the
Okay,
ultimate. Once we get this, I've told the staff that we need to get our feet securely with this system in place, but ultimately, yes.
well, I think that's
Yep.
what we're looking for,
Yep.
is to make sure that we're utilizing all the resources we have
Yep.
and on an individual basis.
Yep.
Okay.
And finally, we created protocols and procedures to do all that assessing, analyzing, identifying, intervening, so that the teachers have a very clear plan of what it looks like throughout the year. We have those 3 benchmarks throughout the year with MAP and AIMSweb that we can use as, to see where the kids, how they're progressing. So we have a very clear progress monitoring system in place. So now we have the protocols here at the school to say, okay, let's look at my class, where are they, how are they progressing? So-and-so is not progressing the way we like. Let's start placing some interventions in place. You can see how it goes after another 6 weeks. Literacy goals from our literacy committee last year. By June 2015, 75% of our students will meet in the standard area of reading using informational text. We identified that as an area of challenge for our students, informational text specifically in reading. And then by June 2015, 75% of our students will independently meet or exceed at constructed written responses to express opinions and informal explain. So written responses are also something we chose to focus on in literacy this year. And again, we have action steps around that. Identifying tools and strategies we need, assess informational text comprehension and fluency, assess informational text tools that we may be able to use, explore technological resources, which we have the Chromebooks now I'll talk about later, which will offer a number of resources students can use, both with mathematics and literacy. Create a vertical progression of informational text concepts from grade 6 for local curriculum, which I'll be working with Laura closely on that for our ELA curriculum. Realign the written portfolio requirements for Common Core, find and create common graphic organizers, and collect and share resources to teach Common Core state standards. So Fran, you asked if do our teachers have everything they need. So these are some resources needed to support our goals. We need more informational text at many levels covering a variety of context areas. So the more we have, the more likely we'll find an interest of a child. The variety we have is better off for the school and for the teachers. It gives them something to work with. Continued professional development.
What's an example of that, Jeff? Informational text, what do you?
Yeah, so, can I jump?
Absolutely.
Jump. So so the Common Core really wanted us to balance literacy with kids. So 50% of their time should be with literature, and 50% of their time should with literary text, and 50% of the time should be with informational text. So even at a really young age, they want children manipulating informational text to wonder about things. But they also really want it to align with what our science and social studies content areas are suggesting. So when this says informational text at many levels, we just don't want any book. You know, you're looking for books that align with what your classroom teachers are trying to teach in science and social studies as well, which would be very supportive. And so, because it's been a shift in thinking that we're spending this amount of time on with informational text. But it's all about getting kids to wonder and helping them find answers and making sure they have the resources to do it.
What's your question? So informational texts are texts you read for information.
Nonfiction.
Do you have what you need? Or is what you need available? Are you coming to that?
We could use more. We could use more. I don't have specifics to tell you, but I think we could use more.
I think this is the warm-up for the budget presentation.
That's what I was just gonna say, I said, well, okay, so you're gonna be coming to the board, okay.
Continued professional development in all these areas that we've been talking about this evening: math, reading, writing, multiple tier system sports or MTSS. And then additional staffing for tier 2 math. So I talked a little bit about what the interventions mean, and teachers are somewhat successful with doing all the tiers. So they do a general whole class instruction. Everybody gets that first big good instruction, and then kids are leveled. Are they getting it that first time? Which technically, according to MTSS, 80% of your students should be getting it that first general instruction. 20% or maybe 15% are needing another hit. They need that tier 2 instruction. Classroom teachers are working hard right now trying to get that tier 2 instruction themselves throughout the day. It's been doing a number of different ways in the school this year. Some teachers are co-teaching, some teachers are doing it on their own. But it's a bit of a struggle to get that tier 2 instruction done when you're trying to do. Plus, tier 3 is intensive instruction. The kid needs another third hit. So we have a title right now, a title reading teacher. Similar math position would be helpful. So teachers could say, okay, I have these sets of 5 kids that need another tier or another hit in mathematics in numbers and operations, for example. We could send them to a math specialist for a short half-hour session, and she or he could do that tier 2 instruction while the classroom teacher's back in the classroom, maybe working with another tier 2 or working with the tier 1 again, or something like that. So, Fran was the question. That's the question you asked me. And it's
If you didn't, I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
If you didn't have a tier 2 possibility
Yep.
for having additional staffing, where would the responsibility for achieving that
classroom teacher.
goes to the classroom teacher, which, would it be safe to say that slows down the entire teaching process?
Can, yes.
Okay.
Yep. Yep.
For the entire class, not as
Yes.
that presentation?
Yeah.
Is it redundant to the rest of the class, the 80% you say has already gotten this?
It takes some creativity.
Okay.
It takes some creativity, and it takes some juggling, some differentiated instruction. So you're meeting the kids where they're at and giving them a lesson all on the same thing, but at their level. So it takes a lot of work. Our title program's successful because we have Mary Carr here.
Right.
We identify kids, and sometimes the kids are in intervention for the 6 weeks and they never see her again because they get over that hump of whatever it is you're teaching. Sometimes they're in there a little longer. A similar person for mathematics would be helpful, where teachers could send a group of kids and they could get another level of instruction.
Jeff, it called a title teacher.
Well,
because-
technically it's interventionist now.
All right, it's the word title that was what I wanted to focus on. We're eligible for funding through Title something or other, Title I, Title II.
We're a Title I school.
So, if we're eligible for federal funding, does that mean that if you needed to bring on someone to help with math?
Do you want to speak to it, or do you want me to?
It would
Well,
be
you're not-
funded
You're
only.
not gonna get any additional
Yeah, it's not gonna
funding
fund
that
a
you
staffing
currently
person. It's
have
not gonna
from
fund a
Title I.
person.
It's a formula based on really your free and reduced lunch
Yep.
account.
Right.
That's not gonna alter, so whether you have the option to shift money within your own funds, but whether there be additional funds, there wouldn't be, not Title I.
Are those funds doled out at the SU level? I mean,
an SU grant.
Shaftsbury has a pool of money that we can draw
The-
from, or?
It goes by your individual district, yeah, but your account is here, so yours is different than what, would be Powell's or.
And there's very strict what you can spend the money on. We qualify to have our type of reading right now, plus some PD and some materials, but not another staff.
In any event, if resources needed to support our goals would be coming from our own budget, basically.
I think that's an accurate statement, yes, it would have to.
I wasn't sure if you.
So to bring it back together, we're going back to Rebecca Holcomb's work, and this is how she closes her letter to all Vermont parents and caregivers. She said, Vermont has a proud and distinguished educational history, but we can always do better, which Mr. Holking alluded to in the beginning. We are committed to supporting our schools as they find more effective and more engaging ways to improve the skills and knowledge of our children. As we have done before, we intend to draw on the tremendous professional capability of teachers across the state as we work to continuously improve our schools. And she's kind of thinking of our schools. She's giving us permission to try things out, look at how kids are doing, be really excited when something works, and share it with your peers. Share what you've got that's working with others. And if it's not working, then go back to the drawing board. And she's giving us permission to kind of play around with that a little bit. And we're going to leave you with both of her documents because they're a great read. And if you have any questions, please feel free to ask. Are there any other questions?
I want to say one more thing before we finish up, and to jump back on what Jim said about the study that he had read. There's a lot of changes in Shaftsbury this year with the new MTSS plan, the Green Mountain Star, all of that, and the teachers are working extremely hard to get this in place and to get this up and running. And he's absolutely right. It's the teachers in the classroom that are going to affect the test scores. He can say me, but I'm just another level supporting them and what they need. They're the ones that are there every day, and they're going to affect the kids every day and how well they're going to do on their test scores or their assessments or what have you. And right now they're working very hard. They're doing a very nice job of trying to get this up and running as fast as they can. It's going to take, there's going to be some bumps, and we know that, and we're going to adjust, but it's been a pretty good process so far, and I can't commend the staff enough for the way they've responded.
Yeah, that's exactly what I mean. If whatever they gotta have, we ought to get sooner than later instead of waiting around. But that's, it's a budget item, but I mean, we could maybe do without something else
Yep.
to get whatever they gotta have for those programs. So,
Yep.
But anyway,
Thank
okay.
you. Any questions?
Jeff, what do you foresee or presently see as the biggest, it's wonderful we set up goals and we strive to meet those. What's the biggest stumbling block in our way? If you can identify that.
The biggest stumbling block as far as student achievement, or as far as?
We look at this as 70% for our school. Well, is that really practical? Can we really get,
I don't think our math committee would make that goal if they didn't think it was attainable.
Okay.
I don't know if I answered your question about that, but the math committee worked on that for a number of, and they.
I guess I'm just looking for, I'll put a name to it, is poverty having a factor on what we're, and do you factor that in as you establish your goals? Are you really looking at what can?
Yes, we are, because we're going to meet every kid where they're at.
Right.
That's the key, is we're going to meet every kid where they're at and say, okay, how can we get goals for that student so they get to where we need them to be?
Right. So I guess what I'm saying is that 70% is fine. It's a noble number to work for, but I want to make sure that every kid has the best shot that he can have.
That's
no
the
matter
whole
what the
idea of the
limitations.
MTSS system.
Okay.
To identify.
Constantly need reinforcement on that, but that's where we're headed.
Yeah, that's exactly what our whole school plan is about, is giving every kid the best opportunity to succeed.
I think sometimes we get hung up on that number. Okay,
But
70%. Well, we should be able to do higher than that. Better than that. But as long as we're working at it.
Yeah.
Jim, I know you're trying to get out of here, but.
I want whatever questions you have before I leave.
Okay, so one of the benefits of being a member of the school board, the state school board association, is they send us interesting documents they think we might want to know about. And we got the other day the governor's letter to Secretary Holcomb. I don't know whether anyone else had a
I
chance
did
to
get
read
that,
that. But I'd be
They aren't
interested.
the only source of that, Dave.
I know. But I might not have seen it otherwise. But I'm curious to know whether you had any reaction to it, Jim. It was 4 of the 5 pages were essentially devoted to we're spending too much money in this state on education. Strong implication that the ratio of staff to students was way out of line. That
Parents to teachers.
I mean teachers. Yeah. So I don't want to suggest that I agree with it, but this would be counter to the instruction that he's giving the secretary to, it seems to me anyway, to be counter to what he's proposing, which is looking for ways to reduce the staff.
Generalizations are always difficult to sum up in one letter, and with the individual experiences at different schools and different. I understand that a lot of those comments I feel driven by financial pressures, not necessarily what will work in the school system. Not that money is always the answer to improvement. It could be, as Fran suggested, reallocation of existing resources. What this proposal does, though, and what they have been doing, and this is what I think is essential, is using data to make the decisions on where we're going to put those resources. Looking at and the fact that I know there's always a fine line, a delicate balance between testing students too frequently and then not having enough information on how they're doing. One thing I like to say, there's a big difference between teaching and learning. You know, we're teaching, but if we're not measuring, then we don't know if they're learning. So it's important that we generate that data and then decide based on, I think we can pinpoint our resources better with the type of systems that are being put in place here to improve it. I do support, and we will talk about that more in budget season, the need for Tier 2 support, particularly in math. And I don't know what that's going to look like yet. So I think that the governor's comments don't go far enough as far as, it's always going to come down to, is there enough funds to do what we want to do? And but even with all the money in the world, you still might not get the results you want, so it's a balance. I do know, and we have heard through the trainings that we have gone through, that Vermont and New Hampshire have the highest ratio of para-educators to teachers than any other state, and they want to know why. And that issue won't go away. You saw it in the governor's letter, and he's going to continue to push that, particularly as we enter the political season. So,
Good. Thank you.
okay. Can I answer anything for anybody else before I go to the next town? All right. Have a good evening. Again, thank you. And I can't say enough. I don't know all your teachers yet. I do know your principal, and I think that you are heading in the right direction. And as I said in the beginning, you have a lot to be proud of, but it can be better. And that's not a criticism.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you.
Okay, next up is Jeff, Facilities.
Okay, update on the parking lot project.
Yep.
We had a site plan created. The site plan that was created called for this new asphalt that's out there. It's very porous. Water runs right straight through it, I guess, and goes into the ground. There's no puddling or whatever. It requires a different base underneath it also. After some talk with a local asphalter, he said that stuff is not the way to go. You have to vacuum it several times a year. It doesn't hold up as well as the traditional asphalt. So we're going to get a new site plan created with that change in mind. Same person's going to do it. It may require a different state permit, but we don't anticipate that to be any problems. And it'll go back to DRB, and again, we don't anticipate any problems with that. But once we get the approval from DRB in the state, we'd like to progress with moving the playground. We have somebody who's going to bid well under $15,000 to do the whole project, and he's offered to move the playground for us for free, and then do the rest of the project. So Jay and I have talked pretty extensively about this, and I think what we'll do is move the playground, get some fencing put up, and get the area secured off so that the person can work on it during the school year and get it in place as soon as possible. But again, we'll wait for those permits and those DRB approval first. Any questions on that before I?
Jeff, you said 15,000 for the entire project?
Under 15,000.
Yeah.
Yeah. For the work. It's going to be the fencing. I don't have it in here.
I'm not trying to pin you down.
No.
I'm just looking for a
No,
little-
Jay went to a number of people and asked what you do charge for this. One person was well under 15,000 to do the parking lot project itself. The fencing was about $3,800.
That's fine.
Yep. We also talked about, and I know I think before my time, is the windows on this north end have been a concern for a couple of things. One, efficiency. the heat, you can watch the heat go out of there in the wintertime. And two, when we had our safety audit, the kids are like in a fishbowl during a lockdown. There's just a lot of glass there. So Jay and I talked about, before we place windows, is actually closing off the two middle windows, making them, board them up, and then make them bulletin boards on their side for the teachers, and then at some point replacing the windows on the ends of the classrooms with more efficient windows. And he looked into doing that, doing maybe a room or two a year until we get it all done and get money for the windows. And he said it'd be less than $500 a classroom just to board up those two windows in each classroom and get it prepared for the more efficient windows that we want to put in at some point. And
Is there any program out there for if we change the windows, because usually it's energy efficiency of
Efficiency
Vermont.
Vermont.
Yeah, they used to have those programs. I don't know if I know for the lighting they did and windows and all, I don't know if they still do. They may not even
Can look into
have
it.
it anymore.
Worth looking into.
Yeah, oh yeah,
Worth
yeah.
looking into. Any questions on facilities?
Just regarding the rooms that you're talking about, Jeff, it's this side of the building
Yeah.
that faces the
Both sides.
north wing.
It's the north wing,
Gotcha.
because that's the original building, it's all glass.
Got it.
When we did a lockdown with the state police last year. They brought a number of officers, and one officer went with Jay and I as we walked through the room, and two more officers walked around the outside. And yes, we have some shades to pull, and there is some things we can do, but that safety house, the same thing. It's like a fishbowl for those classrooms, because it's 4, 5, 6 big windows, and the kids, it's hard to find a place to hide within the classroom where there's no visual.
Any sense of what effect that would have on, losing the natural light? What the,
It would have some
that could
effect,
be?
but I think the classroom lighting is sufficient. To be honest with you, when that sun comes up over that hill, most teachers are pulling those shades on that side, and they pull on this side when it gets over on this side because the sun is so intense. So, to be honest with you, I don't think it would bother them that much.
Is that 8 or 9 rooms?
I think it's 10.
10?
I want to say 10.
10 rooms.
The art room.
Okay.
Yeah, so every room on that end. pretty much. That's all I have for facilities.
Okay, you're next up for your report.
All right. Going right
Opening.
along.
All right.
Opening of school it was 2 weeks ago now, wasn't it? Went very well. We welcomed 2 new staff members, Amanda Madison in 1st grade and Colette Klein in 4th grade, and they've been excellent additions to the school. Our enrollment at the time was 241, we're up to 249, I think the enrollment is now, so we're continuing to grow. It's really nice to have the students back in the schools back alive again. It's been a great start. Nothing to report other than it's been fun. We've had no presentations yet. Usually the PTO does one, but we're saving that till later in the year. Kind of let the kids get their bearings first, rather than starting off with the assembly right away. We do have an open house on the 24th of this month from 6 to 7. Second on this is the Chromebook rollout. The 6th graders got their Chromebooks today with their carts. The 5th and 4th and 3rd graders should get them very shortly. Stephen DeZalia, who's a gentleman that was our tech lab supervisor who was here that night we did the proposal, he's been working very hard getting those 130 some Chromebooks. What's nice is there's not a lot to do to the Chromebooks. He's got to get them in the carts, make sure the charging stations are all prepared. He's done a genius way of. Last year with the Kunos, we had passwords the kids had to have. The kids made up their own passwords. It had to be SVSU approved, which they had certain criteria, so many letters, so many numbers. So with these, we didn't have to do that. So Stephen just set every kid's password to their birthday. They have their own login number, their birthday. Nobody forgets their birthday. If they do, the teacher has it with them. It's easy enough for them to log on and get on there. But he's working very hard with that, and I can't commend him enough for how much he's been helpful with this project. The teachers received some professional development on this during our first in-service days. The 3 to 6 teachers got some PD with Sally Pisacchio on Chromebooks and the Google Docs and how to use them. I already have some teachers haven't got them yet. They're already getting programs ready to go for the Chromebooks in their classroom. The Minecraft EDU, for example. And then the K-2 teachers also got a little professional development on the Kunos they're going to get and the netbooks they're going to get and how they're going to use them in the classroom. So we're pretty close to 1-to-1 here at Shaftsbury. We're very close to 1-to-1. We're much closer than we were a year ago. And the school is very excited about the Chromebooks, the kids and the teachers alike, and we're looking forward to seeing what they can do. And I plan on having some presentations from time to time of what the kids are doing on those devices this year. Questions?
Question?
Oh,
One
sorry,
to
Cal.
one through all grades?
No, I said we're close to 1-to-1. We're 1-to-1 for 3 to 6. Yep, we're 1-to-1 3 to 6. We're very close with K to 2, but. Right. That's all I got for you.
Okay, very good. Superintendent's been done, next is my report. Okay, and at our last SVSU meeting, we talked about the finance operations. We awarded an oil bid, awarded a propane bid, and we talked about Vermont SU Solar Power Consortium. That's to look into it and see if it's something we want to get involved in. Let's see, talked about, we did that amendment as we did at our last Shaftsbury meeting for the 2013-16 ESP agreement. Let's see, did some policies, and I believe, oh, and we do have the thing at the Lake Maury Inn on October 30 and 31st, I think. Is that something you're going to, Dave?
I'm gonna try to get to it.
Okay.
Yeah, I haven't registered yet.
And Mary Lee can register you for that anyway, so you don't, that'll be easier if Todd or anybody wants to go to that. And other than that, the next meeting is September 24th, unless you got anything, or Larry, had the last SVSU?
Oh, no.
No, okay. So other than that, let's see, I did not make the VSBA regional, wait a minute, that's the 15th.
Yeah, you haven't
That's a
made it
fit, so,
yet.
okay. What was the 8th? There was something on the 8th. What did we do the 8th? Oh, that was the open house at,
Right.
in Bennington, okay, on Division Street.
Pretty
Okay.
early childhood.
I'm trying to get my schedule back to where it should be. Okay, other than that, that's all. There was a letter that in the Bennington Banner on Tuesday from North Bennington. I read that. I'm sure Larry did, and I would assume Todd and everybody else read it. I'm not going to correspond with North Bennington in the Banner. We make sure that they get invited to any and all meetings that we hold. And I want to stress, we are having conversations about this issue. We're not trying to close North Bennington School. We're not trying to do any ill will to North Bennington. The problem is they've changed the rules. It is now a private school, even though they'll say it's not. It is a private school, and it's being funded with public funds. So this is why we have an obligation to the Shaftsbury taxpayers. And I have been asked by other people in District 1, you don't see them here all the time. They may come, but they do not want to be humiliated in a public meeting, because I've been there and done that also. This comes up about every 10 years. I brought it up in 2006, 2007, because I was looking into these things. And Larry is a liaison for this board. He's gotten quite a bit of information. And I just think it's something we need to do for us at Shaftsbury. If everybody looked at those numbers and the surplus, if we can make that happen, has nothing to do with hurting North Bennington. And I can't stress it enough. We're not trying to do that. But, I don't know, Larry, you got anything you'd like to say about it?
The only thing I'd like to, again, add to it, Fran, is just that we're simply talking about it at this point.
Sure.
I think a key point has been hit, that we should reach out to the folks in District 1 and ask them what's their pleasure, okay?
Yep.
Find a way, and this is what I'm asking our board to do, is come up with a way that that you effectively feel that we can reach the folks. There's 291 properties in District 1. Reach those folks and ask their opinion about what direction we go in. If the majority says that we're on the wrong track or leave this issue alone,
Yep.
I'm fine with that. If the majority speaks and says they'd like to see us pursue a different course, then I'm fine with
Sure.
that.
Yep.
And then at that point, we can take that information, generate the report that Dave is looking for about what are our options to achieve.
Right.
Obviously, if it comes back that there's no interest, then that's effectively the end of it.
Right.
At least for this decade.
Till another
And,
10 years goes by, and somebody else will do it. I won't be doing it, but somebody else will.
Well, I'm not so sure about you, Ken.
Oh, gee. But anyway,
You know, that'll help us reach a definite decision as to what to do. And I'm respecting Jen's opinion that, why are we doing this?
Yeah, no, that's
She
right.
frequently brings that up, and I think this is a good way to go, and I think it's gonna take a board consensus that this is the tool we're gonna use to do that.
right,
Whether
right.
we use a poll, a mailing, a vote, I mean, there's several options that we can choose from. So
Sure.
please give us some thought and
Yeah.
see where we go. I'd like to have, something at our next meeting on that.
Yeah, yeah, I want to make sure that all board members are here. I mean, Jen couldn't be here, her daughter had a game, that's fine, that's more important than, but, yeah, we need to
Well,
do,
I'm interested in both sides. If there's
Right.
if there's an element out there that says, no, we don't want to go in this direction.
Right.
If they happen to be the element that makes the most noise in some fashion, then
Right.
they're the folks that get listened to.
yeah, no, you're right. But,
Can we make sure that gets on the next meeting then, so we can?
Oh, yeah,
I think
well.
we should
yeah, yeah,
definitely do that, go in that direction, so.
I think that, go ahead,
No,
Dave.
go ahead.
Well, I think the most interesting thing is as far back as Larry had checked into it and myself years ago, nobody seems to know how this came about. You can go back just so far and you just don't, there's nothing there. But that's why I leave that stuff to Larry and he can dig through all that information.
Well, the information's pretty clear, once you can find it. Looking for it over 100 years ago is a little bit of a challenge, but Fran's right. There was a very definite path that was created by the Vermont legislature as to how this was to be done. They did not mandate that it be done. Okay, there are several people, there are lots of folks that believe, oh, it came from the legislature. At that point, it did not. It was to take 2 votes, one from North Bennington, one from Shaftsbury, and agree that District 1 was to be formed. I can't find where that was done. So that's just an interesting side note. Maybe this will entice some other folks that have a better handle on history, or maybe some different resources to also look at it. Judy Stratton has been instrumental in helping me
Right.
go through the archives that we have here in Shaftsbury. But I don't want to get caught up in that. What we need to do is address
Right.
what we're going to do from this point on.
Mhm.
So if we can as a board, come to some agreement on that, then we'll take that direction.
Well, I'll make sure that that's on the next agenda. We will also, I'll make sure that North Bennington gets a heads up. And if they have any questions, I was gonna bring it up earlier, but Jim had to go, but Mr. Bullock was here, he's on the North Bennington
Right.
board.
You should make a note of that, Fran. Board member, Mr. Bullock has been at a couple of our meetings too,
Right.
and has not spoke to us.
Right, and it's frustrating for me, but that's okay, maybe he just wants to listen, but they must have some questions, and I wish they would come and ask, because like I say, we invite them, and I also invite Alice Miller. So if anybody's got any questions or wants to know what's going on, all they gotta do is come to the meeting. So, yes, Dave?
So just on this point a little bit, 6 months ago, 8 months ago, I'm not sure what it was, wasn't the first time we had the conversation, but when we were exploring this a little bit more, we decided to hire an attorney,
Mm-hmm.
Paul Gillies, to, as I understood it, give us a better sense of whether, in fact, this board had any jurisdiction or business to be looking into this question. And I think at this point it would be, before we go any further, and I don't want to anyone leave the impression that I'm proposing or in favor of our next step being a poll of the District 1 residents. I think that might at some point be an interesting thing to do.
Mhm.
But I think our next step needs to be to hear from the lawyer, who we, agreed to hire, and have him give us a sense of, well, first of all, are we even, are we barking up the wrong tree altogether? Are we, as a board, in any position to even be moving this forward?
I think we handled that going in, Dave. That was the first question we had, is does it fall to this board? And if you recall, the original question came out of, I thought this should be a town question.
Right, I remember you said that.
Basically,
the
we
Vermont-
started looking at this from the lister's point of view
Right.
as to evaluation of properties and who is responsible for bringing the assessment of those properties into play, and where did the tax dollars go once those properties were assessed. So I thought we answered that question, and at that time I had spoke to the attorney with the Vermont School Board Association. That was one of the first folks we talked to. The second one was the Vermont City Cities and Town League of Cities and Towns. We talked to their attorney, who both of those were in agreement that it was a school issue. Okay. Opening questions to Mr. Gillies is it your opinion that's where this belongs? And he was affirmative that yes, I think it is a school question. It has always been a school question, and I think it continues to be.
Did he give us a, did he write to us and tell us that?
Yeah, I think I've got that in an actual
Okay.
email back and forth between, and I'll
Okay.
certainly bring that in and share it, Dave, and go better than that, I'll get a current opinion. Has anything
Okay.
changed?
Yep. So what is it then, if not that question, what is he doing for us, if anything?
Well, that's always been his position, is now, you need to tell me what you would like me to do for you, okay? But I really think you should base it on what are the folks in District 1, that's been a voice that he says he would appreciate hearing, okay? And that will open up or close certain options that we have.
Okay. All right. So I think that I would like to see something from him.
Sure.
Some an opinion, I guess, in writing, saying here's what I understand this body's responsibility to be in this matter, if we have any responsibility at all. Because I think fundamentally it comes down to that. Is this something that we have any authority over? I know what the Vermont League of City and Town said. I mean, you reported that. I'm not sure that I necessarily agree with that from a practical standpoint, that the town of Shaftsbury shouldn't be pursuing this if that's what they wanted to do, but they decided not to, I guess, so.
Okay. All right, so you'll check into that.
Sure.
Okay. Has anybody got anything else on the matter? Tim?
Just to make sure I understood David's comment about the town of Shaftsbury pursuing that. We haven't decided not to pursue it. We see it as a school matter. So we are watching it with interest, but we don't think we have any responsibility or any authority there. We have discussed that point and decided it's really a school issue and that we can watch and participate as citizens, but it's not something the town can do.
Tim, that's based on the opinion that you received from the Vermont League of City and Towns?
No, it's based on our uninformed, or unprofessional opinion that this is a school matter, where school district lines are drawn is not something that we believe the town has control over. So we haven't pursued it legally, but that's certainly our thought is that it's not something we have jurisdiction over.
The letter that the Prudential Committee or the North Bennington Committee wrote to the paper outlined what somebody, the author of the letter, seemed to feel was the steps that would be required to get from here to there. And my feeling on reading that was, oh, interesting. That hasn't been explained to me or to us, and I wonder whether the lawyer would, that's the sort of thing I'm looking for,
Sure.
I guess, from Paul. Is saying, yeah, this is what it would take. And
Well, there are, Mr. Milano did touch on a couple of points that obviously will come up as on the option list. But those are pretty well known. But again, we'll get a defined opinion of that, Dave, and I don't think we would have gotten anywhere near as, far down the road as we have if we weren't secure in at least with the idea that we're doing the right thing here.
Yeah, okay.
Okay, anybody else? That's all I had. Is there any other?
We got a couple others.
Go ahead.
Monday, we had the real pleasure of visiting Karen Burnell's new facility on Division Street. I think Jeff was there. I apologize if I missed the rest of you guys, but
I couldn't make it.
that is quite an achievement. I think we should all be proud of being a part of that. Karen also shared that there's 2 Shaftsbury children there that they had been in Molly Stark and were transferred over to come with the teacher. I mean, that's the kind of, I think, service we're getting from that area, is that they are concerned about children. They're gonna make good decisions that support good outcomes for those kids. But it stopped down there. It's for somebody that's been around here forever and watched the transformation, it's really a remarkable facility, so. The other thing that both Molly Stark and BSD have recently completed are updates in their security system, basically how you entered the building. And I'd like to go back and revisit that and again, just poll the board as to whether you see that as something that Shaftsbury should be pursuing. Both have done it a little differently, but they've done it effectively for what they had to work with. I think Shaftsbury's could be a lot friendlier, but again, just to provide that element of security as to how you get in this building. So,
Okay, anything else?
they look like first-class jobs. I was
Yeah.
really impressed. The secretary has a bank, a computer screen in front of her showing at least 8 different views of the interior and exterior of the building at all times. It's recorded 24/7 around the clock. They can see what goes on at night. They can see virtually anything that happens at that school, which I feel is good information to have in this world. So.
Yep. Now, these doors are locked during the day, and they have stuff to buzz in.
The buzzer's not working right now.
Okay, but they,
Right now.
okay. All right, I just didn't know, and I figured.
The whole bank of doors is locked, Jeff?
Yep. We open, I have it open first thing in the morning when the kids arrive and the parents are arriving, because it's, otherwise, we prop it open and we'd have to prop it open, but we should have it locked at that point, after that point.
Okay, anybody else? I will need a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. All in favor? Aye. Okay, very good. Those warrants.
Good?
There you go. Oh,